for Friday, December 25th, 2020. Merry Christmas, Miss Stephanie.
Merry Christmas, Chuck. Well, just jump in. Bob Carver shared a Forbes article this week called Why You Should Change How WhatsApp Stores Your Messages. It was fairly in-depth. It also references Signal in there, which most of you know is my preferred messaging app, and recent claims that there was a company who could crack their encryption. This wasn't entirely accurate. Their access to the messages depended on having the actual physical device, which everyone knows that leaves any of your data vulnerable regardless. If you have the device itself, I mean, you've got the key and the door. So the article suggested disabling some cloud backups for WhatsApp, as well as iMessage. I would recommend disabling cloud backups for all of your devices when you have really sensitive messages going back and forth. Obviously, I'm not talking about, your company's important data; those need backups. But when you're messaging someone else, unless you're terribly nostalgic or going to need those for a long time, try not to keep any of that kind of stuff or back it up to a cloud. The article also talked about backdoor access, like the one that was exploited in the SolarWinds attack. Obviously, law enforcement and security agencies would want this, and most privacy advocates would not. So backdoors and backups create huge vulnerabilities for these apps. And if you still insist on using WhatsApp, I recommend that you enable 2FA, two-factor authentication, disable your default media downloads. Don't just automatically download things to your device. And then protect the metadata that you're sending back and forth, and disable those cloud backups for those messaging systems. Again, I'm going to go back to Signal. WhatsApp is not the preferred one, but I know a lot of you use it, so make sure that you're using it as safely as you possibly can. Michael Voss shared an FBI.gov article on clearance holders targeted on social media. So this cautions those that hold security clearances, and I would add to that anyone who has access to information that's potentially valuable. So you can imagine that pretty much covers everyone. To properly vet your social media connections and limit the visibility and interactions you have with them, as they may just be potential social engineers. A few signs that you could be being socially engineered out of your social or out of your security clearance would be that whatever they're approaching you with, whether it be a job or whatever, is too good to be true. There's a lot of flattery for your position, flattery for your physicality or anything like that they could potentially kind of tap into, as well as scarcity, limited time offer. There are only so many of these jobs available. The information they're going to share with you will have a lack of depth or detail. It's going to have urgency. There's going to be an imbalance. There's going to be more focus on attracting you rather than making sure that you're qualified, or that they're letting you know who they are as a recruiter. Make sure that you're viewing the profiles of your connections. A lot of honeypots out there. They're in various forms, but I notice oftentimes that when people reach out to me on LinkedIn in particular, that I have way more common connections with attractive females. I know it's tempting to connect with everyone, and I know it's tempting to connect with an attractive face, but make sure that you're looking at these profiles to make sure that there's actually a real person on the other end of that profile and not a social engineer. Martin Nielsen shared a foreignpolicy.com article about your digital footprint is worrying and easy to match to reality. So really good tips for all of us in here. You know that I think that everyone should know what your digital footprint looks like, especially if you are high profile, high visibility, high net worth. If you are a security stakeholder tasked with protecting one, you definitely need to talk to us about executive digital protection. It gave good tips for everyone, though, in terms of geolocating your posts, making sure that they don't have that geolocation information, both in the content as well as the EXIF data. Content meaning, a very visible landmark behind you, as well as EXIF data showing the location, the time, the device that the photo was taken with. Those are things that you don't want to share openly, as well as not posting locations in live time. So if I'm on vacation, if I'm at a restaurant, if I'm at a conference, wait to post those photos until later. It suggested photo editing apps. I know that some people think those are just for, editing out your bad hair days, but those are good for background images, as well as things like license plates and other things that should be obfuscated, or the view from your home windows. Again, really tempting, especially as we get some pretty snow or things along those lines, that we take a photo out the window and share it openly. Definitely don't do that. You don't want someone reverse engineering that photograph and finding out where you are. Photos of your pets, openly sharing that information and then turning around and using it as a password recovery question. And then be mindful of other people tagging you. Make sure your settings are such as that you have to approve any tags that you are linked to. So really important stuff. Make sure to reach out if you need assistance with any of that. Mindfluence shared this week 4 reasons to involve CISOs in M&A planning. I love this. We do a lot of M&A due diligence, as well as a lot of cyber M&A due diligence. When you buy something, you're inheriting their problems as well as their assets. Cyber due diligence can identify risks and synergies. M&A playbooks for cyber can help expedite and formalize the processes, like checkpoints and continuity in a deal. Deal valuations and structures can definitely be altered by the cyber team's findings, whether or not you're inheriting problems or solutions. And threat landscapes are far more expansive and complex than ever before. So including cyber in that will give you such a broad purview into the entirety of the transaction that you're entering into. So really, really good tips there. Jenica and Donnie shared Cybersecurity Hub's 25 best cybersecurity books, recommendations from the experts. I won't list all 25 here, but I'm always asked what I recommend for certifications, training, books, anything along those lines. This was a really good reference for the books. As it relates to trainings and all of those other things, that's very, very dependent on what route you want to take in the industry. But there are always resources and great, helpful people out there that are willing to share their experience and their knowledge. So make sure that you raise your hand and ask for help. And that's what I have for you all this week. I wish each of you a very Merry Christmas, if that's what you celebrate, as well as the rest of you to just have a lovely, lovely holiday. Stay safe, be well, and I will look forward to seeing you all next week.